Welcome to the Oklahomans Video Studio. I'm Brady Moore here with Thunder beat writers Erik, Horne, and Brett Dawson. And guys, we're not talking about the Thunder today, but someone the Thunder could potentially draft, that being former Oklahoma State point guard Jawun Evans. And guys, could the Thunder realistically draft him at 21?
I think it's realistic. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think it's realistic. There are a lot of teams, in the back end of the first round that I think are going to be looking for point guard talent. It's a deep point guard draft, but it's top heavy as well. So you're going to have a little bit of space in between your elite point guards in the lottery and where Jawun Evans falls. But I think anywhere in the back end of the first round to the early second round is a realistic spot for him.
Yeah, there's a high level. It's a high level point guard draft at the top. But once Lonzo Ball, De'Aaron Fox, and really Dennis Smith, once those guys come off the board, there is going to be a premium on point guards later in the draft. There's been a wide range on Evans. There's a lot of people who think he's going to be in that 20 to 25 range. There's a lot of people who see him as kind of more of an early second round pick. The Thunder needs a backup point guard. I think it's more likely the Thunder ends up with Evans if it makes a move down, if it buys its way into the second round, for example, and he's still around.
Brett, what makes Evans so appealing for those NBA teams, late first round, compared to the other guys that are going to go in the second round?
Yeah, I think the main thing with him, I talked to Jay Billis about this week, he's really good in pick and roll. I mean, that's sort of his strength as a point guard. He runs a pick and roll very well. He's got a great feel for it. Billis talked about, he is a guy who's been well coached in that system, but it's also just a natural sort of knack that he has for it. That's the NBA offense. I mean, spread pick and roll is where everything is going. So he's a good athlete. He's great in pick and roll, and really, he is a high-level scorer.
He's a guy who looks to get his teammates involved at first. And I think that, I don't want to make this comparison because people are going to jump all over me, but every time I watch Jawun Evans, even from his high school days, I immediately thought Chris Paul in terms of the body type and his willingness to get other people involved. We saw in the series, the NBA Finals, Golden State and Cleveland. Cleveland really struggled in terms of finding a distributor other than LeBron James. With as ball heavy as the Cleveland Cavaliers were in terms of James and Kyrie Irving handling the ball, and as good as Kyrie Irving is, he doesn't create for others. I mean, you think a guy like Jawun Evans might have even helped them coming off the bench and being a guy who can create. So the NBA is looking for guys like Jawun Evans who can create, can find teammates in the pick and roll situations, and I think that he's a guy who's going to be valuable for somebody coming off the bench immediately early into his NBA career.
When you look at Jawun Evans' Oklahoma State career, you don't necessarily look at him as an elite shooter, but he's always been good enough from the three-point line. He makes the defense stay honest with them on pick and rolls, not go under the screen, make them fight through the screen. And I think that's going to be really realistic for him in his NBA game, even though the three-point line is going to move back a little bit. That being said, guys, who do you think is actually going to draft Jawun Evans on draft night?
There are a lot of interesting places. Just before the show, we were mentioning casually Brooklyn has multiple picks at the back end of the first round. I could see them maybe taking a chance on him, considering that they haven't gotten enough out of Jeremy Lin in the past few years, and Brooklyn is just continuing to try and add talent because they're so decrepit right now in terms of their talent base. I could see, a team as high as Indiana at 18 maybe taking a chance on the Jawun Evans because they might lose Jeff Teague in free agency, and he's been a really good point guard for them, but they might want to go in a different direction. So there are a lot of different places where he could slot in, maybe even a San Antonio at the back end of the first round if Tony Parker's a guy that they might want to offload in the season, and they can start grooming him behind Evans behind DeJounte Murray. So there are a lot of different places where he could go. I feel like a good fit for him in terms of playing time would certainly be Brooklyn, but in terms of the franchise itself, I don't think any player wants to go to Brooklyn to start their career, but they're slowly on the rebuild. That would be a place where he could get minutes. And they have taken chances on Oklahoma State guys before. They did have Markel Brown in camp in the past few seasons.
When I look at Jawun Evans and the NBA draft, a team like the Orlando Magic sticks out to me because do you really think they're going to go all in on Elfrid Payton, one of the worst shooting guards or worst point guards shooting in the league? I don't think so. I think that at 25, I think the Magic pull the trigger. Brett, your thoughts?
Well, that's a pretty good range for him. If he should fall a little bit, if he falls to the point where Philly, which has an early second round pick, could get him, I really like Philadelphia from the standpoint that I think they are going to turn the ball over to Ben Simmons quite a bit. They're going to let him run kind of point forward some. And it looks like, from the sound of things, from reports you get out of Philly, that maybe they're not going to take one of those high-level point guards in those first 5 picks, that maybe they might be looking more on the wing maybe at a Josh Jackson, maybe at a Jason Tatum. So if they get to that point, and obviously they're going to try to be players in free agency, but if they get to that point and they haven't shored up the point guard situation, I think that's a really nice fit for him, a place where he would get a chance to play quite a bit because they are going to be a little bit of an alternative kind of lineup. Some with Simmons handling the ball a lot. They give him some opportunities in pick and roll, and there's a lot of really good young talent around him there.
Another intriguing team, I think. Keep an eye. I don't know if he's going to fall this far, but keep an eye on New Orleans at 40. They stand a chance to lose Drew Holiday in free agency. He's a guy who's going to get a lot of attention in terms of teams who want that veteran point guard. And Drew, I could see Jawun Evans being a guy who works really well with Anthony Davis in pick and roll and being able to get him the ball. He'll definitely defer. He's not going to be a guy that's going to take shots away from them. The defense is always going to be a question with Jawun Evans because of his size. He's going to give you some. He's going to give up some points because Holiday is one of the best defensive guards in the league. But New Orleans might be in the market for a point guard at 40.
You know, that's a great point because another thing is that Jawun is not dissimilar from a guy like Ish Smith, who thrived there. It was great in that Alvin Gentry system. It's the Mike D'Antoni system. It really elevates point guard play. I don't think he's going to fall that far, but New Orleans is a team that without a first-round pick also might be looking to make some moves and try to get up.
Well, that'll be it for today in the Oklahoma studio. For all things Oklahoma and Oklahoma State basketball, keep it right here at newsok.com.